Okay, I'd like to call the Eureka Special Art and Culture Commission meeting to order on Thursday, March 7th at 12:05. I'd like someone to make a motion to allow Marnie to participate by Zoom.
I so move.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Accepted. Okay, roll call.
Commissioner Topping,
Present.
Commissioner Johnson,
Here.
Commissioner Block-Welliver,
Here.
Commissioner Haar,
Here.
Commissioner Vielbeek,
Here.
Commissioner Goodman, absent, and Commissioner Atkins has not joined us on Zoom yet. So,
Okay. Oral communications. Pursuant to the Brown Act, Section 54954.3A, the public shall be provided an opportunity to speak only on items that are listed on the special meeting agenda. Okay, business. Eureka Cultural Arts District Memorandum of Understanding. Swan.
Hi, everyone. I'm going to get us started on this. Let me pull up my presentation. I don't know that we need this presentation, but I need it anyways. So for this item, I'm going to give a little bit of background on it. Let's see. I'm going to give a little bit of background on this. Some of you were on the commission when we first started this, and then some of you are new, and so I just wanted everyone to be on the same page as far as how we got to where we are. And then I'm going to pass it over to Leslie. She's going to talk a little bit about the current programming that's happening with the district. And then today we are joined by our city attorney, Autumn Luna, and she is going to talk about the MOU itself. So this whole thing started back in 2015. Assembly Bill 189 authorized the California Arts Council to establish state designated cultural districts. And then in 2016, Libby Maynard, who was the executive director of the Ink People, she brought this to the commission and really encouraged the commission to pursue this program. And so our first step was to begin mapping out our cultural assets. For that process, we used the state's definition of a cultural district, which was a high concentration of cultural facilities, creative enterprises, or arts venues that serve as a main anchor or attraction. So this mapping process, it came before the commission multiple times. The commission gave a lot of feedback and direction, and we ended up with a final map at the beginning of 2017. It was approved by the Art and Culture Commission. It was approved by City Council. It also had a resolution that went to City Council. This is the final map showing our district boundaries. We have a really large district compared to other districts. But this is where we ended up. There's been conversations about modifying this district boundary, but we'll see where the Ink People wants to go with that. After we finalized our map, we submitted our application to the CAC. I think it's important for the commission to know that on that application, the Ink People was our lead agency, with Eureka Main Street and the City of Eureka as the partner organizations. Through that process, we became a semifinalist. There was 22 different semifinalists. The Creamery District was also a semifinalist. For a brief moment, we decided to combine the districts, and we had a site visit from the CAC in 2017, and we did a tour of both districts, and the CAC made the decision that they wanted to pursue the Eureka Cultural District and hold off on the Creamery District for future designation. So we were awarded our designation in 2017. It came with a $5,000 stipend. We bought some banners on 101. We worked on a website, pretty minimal. And until now, 2023, let me back up. There was 14 cultural districts that were chosen by the CAC. We were all given that $5,000. And then from there, kind of just not a lot happened within the district as far as programming until most recently. In 2023, the CAC decided to recertify the 14 existing cultural districts and also awarded each one $670,000 for 3 years of programming to be dispersed. And so that really brought us to where we're at right now of pursuing an MOU to really kind of formalize how we'll administrate those funds. And I will pass it off to Leslie to talk about what she's been up to.
Thank you. Thank you to the City of Eureka and Eureka Main Street for being such great partners in this endeavor. I speak not only on behalf of the Ink people, but on a group of people who've been working together on this. One of the biggest, personally biased, most exciting developments is, and you'll see this in the MOU, is that the Wiyot tribe is coming onto the district as a fourth partner. We recognized in that, in the developing of the district, the Wiyot tribe did not have the Dagarului Cultural Center yet, within the city. And also, I think we all know that there have been some really historically significant developments and, contributions and just relationship building with the tribe and with the city and with people in the community. So that's, I would say, like one of the big things you'll see there. And this, and I'm sure City Attorney Luna will speak to this. This MOU has been vetted by tribal attorneys as well as the City of Eureka attorney as well. And that's partially why there's been kind of I feel like there's a long time coming sense to this, just because we really wanted to be as thorough as possible with the kind of legal considerations. A little background about the recertification. One of the things that happened around that was the development of a next 5 years plan that was presented to the California Arts Council. That next 5 years plan is not a thing set in cement, but it was really us forecasting what might be the best use of these funds moving forward. Interestingly enough, right, your 5-year plan, the 3 years of funding were received for the Cultural Arts District, but you submitted a 5-year plan. So there's some idea of like, what will you do post-funding as well? The Ink people, along with the City of Eureka and Eureka Main Street, pulled together a group of people that gave a pretty significant advisement and input into that next 5 years plan. And what was proposed at the time and has been moved forward with thus far is that the funding will be used kind of for 4 main strategies. And I'll get into a little nuance around that. But one of them is just marketing the district, right? Like, where is it? What is it? Who should know? Right now, it's sort of like Eureka's best kept secret. The other is, staff, just to support the well-being of the district. And then the 2 main programs are planned to be 2 grant programs, one to fund kind of shorter term, like cultural celebrations, events, activities, for smaller grants, and the other would be larger grants that would fund monuments, murals, markers, things that would have more long-standing effects of cultural and creative visibility. So those are kind of what was proposed to the California Arts Council for that recertification. I'm in pretty regular contact with the California Arts Council, as well as with, there's a very loose coalition of other cultural arts districts, of the 14 other cultural arts districts. And so we work together on a variety of issues, some of them being advocacy for the cultural arts districts in general. The state did late last year, awarded a small amount of funding similar to the first round of funding that was awarded to the first 14 cultural arts districts. So basically, they're looking at kind of doubling the program and expanding it from 14 to 28. So the first round of funding was basically $5,000. That was just like, good job, let's get started. We got 2 banners, yay, and a little staff time, I think, out of the mix. Up until this funding, it was a designation an unfunded designation from the state. And so one of the things the partners felt like doing, or not felt like doing, but thought were important was, both creating opportunity at the Wiyot tribe there, and that was presented to the tribal council and approved by the tribal council. But also really looking at access to decision making for the district. And so the state, and this has been one of the interesting conversations at the state level, the state, in awarding this funding, there was no requirements or guidance even for how this funding should be governed. And so each cultural district is applying the funding in pretty different ways. We felt like it was important, or decided it was important to create opportunities for a leadership council that would basically be adding another layer beyond the partners of input to the funding. And so there will be, once this MOU you see before you allows for that council to be formed, there's just a small amount of language in there. And so I would say that's the second kind of matter of significance in this MOU, is just that it states that this council will be formed. So in another aside, the Ink people and the other partner organizations decided that we wouldn't spend any funding until this governance process was decided, because we wanted as much transparency for the community as possible. And so, and I've been in touch with the state. I'm like, it's okay that we're not spending the money, right? Because we're doing this governance process, and they're totally on board for that. And we're also sharing all of these documents with them as kind of an open source forums that can hopefully also support other cultural districts that want to look at funding or want to look at governance. And so there will be opportunity with the Leadership Council for different cultural representation, additional arts organization representation. Anyway, there's a whole kind of discussion around that, and that's been, I will say, has had significant community input, public input from a really diverse array of cultural groups, to really make sure that this is an opportunity for the community and for the breadth of the community. So I'm very excited for that part of it, and to actually start moving forward with programming once that we get not through this governance process, but once once the governance process is approved. And that is my update.
Hi, everyone. It's nice to be at the commission meeting today. I don't think I've ever joined you before, so it's my pleasure to do so today. And I think that Leslie did an excellent job and Swan did an excellent job of giving you background on the process and the MOU itself. I don't have a ton to add other than that I'm, proud to be a part of this process. I think it's a really cool and interesting MOU. As an attorney, I have looked at and drafted hundreds in my career, maybe more. And so this one is I think, unique in its purpose to create a council that is its own thing and will have its own life, overseeing how money is spent from the CAC's generous grant. And so that's a cool and interesting thing that you guys now get to be a part of. And I think perhaps my time is better suited answering questions, which I'd be very happy to do about the MOU itself, or the process of getting it up and running. What's next? Anything that you guys have questions about, I'm here for it.
I actually have one quick question, less about the MOU, more about the voting on the MOU. As a staff member of the Ink people, is it okay for me to be voting on this as a commission member? I mean, I don't think there should be any reason that I wouldn't, but I just want to make sure.
So what the commission is doing today, I believe, is a recommendation to City Council, and City Council will then make the final determination. So recommendation itself, I think you're probably in pretty good shape, making an up or no, a yes or no recommendation to council for their final vote. Yeah. But thank you for alerting us. We appreciate that transparency as well. By the way, I actually was hoping that council or the commission would give some suggestions on one portion of the MOU, if you're amenable, although I think maybe for the purpose of this meeting, we would take public comment on the item first, and then we could talk about that if you guys are open to it.
Is there any public comment? Okay.
Should just let you all know, Commissioner Atkins joined us earlier in the presentation, so she's here as well.
Okay, good.
Looks like we're seeing no public comment.
We do have her hand raised now. Commissioner Atkins.
Oh, okay. Commissioner Atkins?
Thank you all. I had the similar question. I helped draft some of this agreement, as well as I sit on council for the Wiyot tribe, and I was an employee at the time. So I'm a little bit in the mud as well, and I wanted to be clear on that. So my question, I guess, to you all is, and to Autumn, if it's still appropriate for me to be part of this recommendation to move it forward to City Council, or if I should abstain. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm happy to address that. Again, keep in mind that what you're doing here is simply making a recommendation to the City Council. And also, just from the fundamentals of needing to abstain or not abstain is whether or not you think you have a financial interest in this agreement. And I don't think there's anybody on the commission who stands to gain financially from this agreement. And so, this agreement is creating a council that will then be another layer of how the money that was gifted to the district gets utilized. And so that's not a decision that's being made here today. I do very much appreciate how much commissioners are thinking about it and asking those important questions, but I don't see a financial conflict with anybody given what's being requested today.
On that same note, I do own a home and a studio in the Cultural Arts District that was intentional. And so with your last comment, hopefully that's not an issue. I don't see this bringing me financial gain, but that might be a different type of consideration.
It might be. I mean, no, you know, again, it may, that is a slightly different consideration, but it isn't, I don't think it is the case today that we're voting to, put money into a specific part of the Cultural Arts District, although presumably if you own in the Cultural Arts District, money will be flowing that way hopefully soon. I'm going to leave that one up to you if you feel comfortable. That's up to you. I think I apologize. I didn't come prepared to dig deeply into the Political Reform Act today.
I'm comfortable with it, but I will just say when I was house hunting and found the place I found, I was sitting in my hotel waiting to start paperwork for the bid, watching, I'm that kind of nerd, watching on the cable channel the meeting where they were discussing the cultural district, and thought, oh, I'm in that address. That's it, and that was what my final factor was as an artist returning back to the county 7 years ago. So,
Oh, cool.
yeah.
And to the chair, I think almost everyone on the Arts and Culture Commission, because they are artists and culture bearers who are tied to the district, have some association with the district itself. And that's the nature of the district, is that it encompasses most every art and culture organization in the city. And so, specifically, there has been no benefit to any one person, agency, or institution, outlined thus far, and that all of those decisions are yet to be made and are not being made by this council.
Yeah, it is raising a really interesting point, though, about the subsequent council that will be created, the leadership council that will be created. And we have said in the MOU that they will be subject to all of the typical rules of governance, and we want them to take their AB 1234 training and be aware of those considerations as they are, making decisions about how to give money and to whom. Yeah. So again, thanks for bringing that up.
Well, I think when we were forming the cultural district, we were trying to include as many of the cultural organizations as possible in the district.
So if you don't mind, I will just raise one thing that I was hoping to get your input on. As the Arts and Culture Commission, you may be, I think you're well situated to give some input on the MOU. I've been looking at it for many, many, many months. And when you look at a document for so long, you stop being able to see it. Has that ever happened to you guys? Okay. So I, on 6C, I know that it was the purpose of everybody involved in the drafting of this document, and I think it will be the purpose of the Leadership Council as they are drafting and finalizing their rules to be as inclusive as possible. And so we listed some here in the second sentence of this paragraph, community and cultural organizations, and we had input from drafters about what to put here. The Wiyot Tribe's attorney, Curtis Berkey, who I worked with closely on this, asked that we add Indian tribes. And I feel like as I was adding, it wasn't becoming more inclusive. Somehow it was feeling like I was leaving people out. And that certainly wasn't the intent. And I'm just curious if anybody has either thoughts on that or suggestions for ways to improve this particular sentence, because it's been on my mind.
Yeah, I mean, DEI initiatives, as far as when you're trying to make the list, whatever that is, I know that's challenging. And I hear what you're saying. That sometimes when you're making the list, it feels like you're making things less inclusive, not more inclusive. I mean, I think, I don't know. I mean, without going too deep into the language, I mean, this reminds me of some of the work I'm doing at Red Region Rise, where there is a huge, I mean, trying to be very inclusive laundry list of priority communities. And it might be possible to appendix something in here, I don't know, possibly saying like, okay, here's just but also a non-exhaustive list of priority communities that should be included. But then that also complicates the actual execution of the MOU as far as I'm reading it. Like, well, okay, like how many of these communities have to be included or whatnot. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think you're hitting the right points here that you want. I mean, the key players involved: arts and culture, youth, Indian tribes, community and cultural organizations. But as far as really trying to make something concretely inclusive and making that part of the actual MOU governance document, that's a challenge.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I appreciate that, and maybe Leslie can speak to this as well a little bit. The Leadership Council itself is going to be thinking about and talking about it, not only its own membership, but the membership that is created after this MOU starts with the chairs of each of the member organizations, giving life to the Leadership Council with a couple of members, and then the Leadership Council itself has the opportunity to add members. And so maybe if we're talking about a more exhaustive or inclusive list, if it's necessary, the Leadership Council can do that. And maybe that's the appropriate
I would
place.
personally agree with that recommendation. I think at some point you just kind of have to trust to the process and evaluate the process as you go.
Okay.
I wonder if it's worth adding to just the verbiage of that where it says should include, but, oh God, I just had something perfect in my head, but is not limited to these options. So that way we're not, it's not just these, this is all that gets to be there, but as other, organizations, entities become clear that they are appropriate for it, they can be added.
Right. So just after include and before representatives, we can add that. I'll just call it that lawyerly language.
Yeah.
Not limited to. Okay. I'll make that change before I send this to council if that's a change that everybody thinks is appropriate. Okay. Thank you.
I just had I don't want to move on if anyone else had from that one. I did have a question of my own for actually on 6A.
Yeah. Go ahead.
And forgive me, I probably should know this because I'm definitely looking at this document earlier back in some of its formation. But just to be, this sounds like a really silly question, but I mean, I just know that these days it's something that pops in my mind. What happens if one of the member organizations doesn't designate two individuals? Or just, I mean, because right now currently there's an agreement saying it has to happen like within 30 days.
Well, one of the things that I thought about when drafting this paragraph was making it as easy as possible by just having it be the chair designate or the mayor designate. In other words, not convening a full board to do a designation process so that it didn't kind of get bogged down in those details. And, currently, because I am familiar with and able, I think, to reach out to those folks and say, give me your two names. I'm not too worried about it. But I did have a moment where I thought, gosh, 30 days isn't really that long if we're going to convene a commission and have people voting on it and all of that. Every year the council gets to do that. And I was just rewatching from earlier last year where we literally flipped a coin at one point to figure out who went on a board or commission, which, was funny enough. But I didn't want that to be how how the leadership council got populated. So I just left it up to the chair of each of those member organizations, which, you know, again, you're in a position now that if you think that should be amended, we could make a different recommendation to council.
No, I mean, I think it is honestly like the best possible system given the scenario of having four very different organizations / governmental entities working together. It's just one of those things that pops into my mind as a concern, given that, the gears can sometimes grind quite slowly. And
Yeah. What happens, practically speaking, is that, on day 31, I ask again nicely, and then other people ask, until we get the names. I mean, this is an MOU. It's an agreement to work together. I don't think it's going to implode because of that or because of anything. Sometimes things take a little bit longer. You put 30 days in an MOU and it's aspirational, I have every faith that it will happen within 30 days. And if it doesn't, we'll get it done as soon as we possibly can. Right, Leslie?
To the chair, the only, again, having looked at this, for 6C, the only listing that comes to mind that could be included at this moment, perhaps, is organizations that support people with disabilities. I think would make sense to include as part of the leadership, people that could be on that list for the leadership council, if that's the willing, if the board here is willing or interested.
I would agree with that. I mean, I think that does fulfill a distinct category that's not currently represented here in one way or the other.
Yeah, I would also agree with that.
Okay, I'm seeing a nodding of heads from a majority of the commissioners, although I can't see Marnie's head. Okay, good. Thank you. I will make that change before I bring this to council. Thank you.
If I may, I just wanted to say that I know governmental processes can take a little bit longer, as Autumn said. So if there was a 30-day requirement, I know for our process, we might be a little bit longer in designating, simply because we meet monthly as a tribal leadership, and so it might take a bit longer. So if as long as you're understanding and patient that if we only meet monthly, we might hit that 30-day, but that will give you the designee names. So I just wanted to be sure that I guess that sometimes bureaucracies grind slowly, and but yeah, the partnership is to always make the best effort, and so thank you for that.
Thank you very much, Marnie. I'm realizing now that maybe it would be easier to just change this to 45 days. Oh, goodness. Vigorous nodding of heads. Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you for bringing that back up. And I think that's a good way to just give a little breathing room for folks.
Yeah, and I mean, personally, I think with a document like this with an MOU, it would be better to set a realistic deadline and then really stick to it, as opposed to setting an aspirational deadline that we kind of just assume is going to get blown past, because then what do you do once you blow past it?
Do you want an answer to that?
That was rhetorical, but thank you.
No, I think you're right. I had maybe unrealistic expectations there, so glad we made that change.
So I don't want to rush you to approve, but normally I would pull up suggested motion language. However, I failed to do that. So I can read some to you, and if you're ready to do that, but there's no rush. I'm just throwing that out there for when you are ready.
Are there any other comments, or does somebody want to make a motion?
I'm ready for verbiage.
All right, we'll see how I did. I move the Art and Culture Commission approve the Eureka Cultural Arts District MOU as amended to be approved and to recommend approval to the City Council. And those amendments to include the change to 45 days, not limited to, and to add language to include the disabled community.
That's very long, Swan. I don't know if I can pull all of that off in one breath.
You can move staff. We can say that staff recommendation, and you move staff recommendation.
I move for staff recommendation.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Okay, accepted.
Thank you, everyone, very much. I apologize that I have to leave before your second item, but I do have a meeting at 1, and I'm going to go and prepare for that. So I appreciate your time, and I'll let you guys know when this gets to council. It should be March 19th. So thank you
Thank you
again.
very much.
Thanks for all the time you've put into this.
Okay, next item is updated Artist of the Month year logo.
Okay, as you all know, this program, we do this every time we meet. This program recognizes local artists for their contribution. The Art and Culture Commission is the city body that selects the city's Artist of the Month, and then from that list, the mayor selects the Artist of the Year. But most recently, the program, we use that program in media and recognition materials. But previously the commission directed us to go and do an updated logo, and specifically to work with artist Blake Reagan on a logo. And so this is the final logo that was presented to us by Blake. And so we're asking for you to approve it, and then or to give us feedback on what changes you'd like. And then we will use this to finally recognize our 2023 artists and move forward on our recognition ceremony.
Personally, I think the logo is wonderful. My only comment would be, is it absolutely imperative that we include the date and the name? Because that just seems like it could be, I know what our last meeting, we hadn't met in a while. We had to, select 6 artists, I believe. That can make it a little more difficult for the production side of this. Does that make sense? Anyone else thoughts on that?
I think kind of depends on how we're using the logo on the awards. I know like in the past, I think in the past the Artists of the Month have gotten like a mug. So I don't know. It may just depend on the process that they're using. I think it would be fantastic if the artist's name at the very least was on it. I don't know that we need the date aside from like 2014 on there. It'd be great though if the artist's name was on it, just because that makes it a little more kind of special keepsake, the functional keepsake.
Yeah, good question. Is it a mug?
I was going to wait until our regular meeting in April to talk about this, but one thing I did want to talk about with staff or with the commission is staff's capacity. So we have a team of 3. We operate the Eureka Visitor Center, Eureka Main Street. We staff the Economic Development Commission and all economic development strategic plan initiatives. Art and Culture Commission, Art and Culture initiatives, council directives. And to be honest, it feels like this is a program that we are struggling, that like we have a lot of competing priorities and it just doesn't feel like we're doing this well. And so one thing we were interested in talking to the commission about is changing this program where instead of doing an artist of the month, you all make some recommendations for artist of the year. And we do, I guess we're interested in doing fewer things better. It doesn't feel like it's especially special to the artists of the month. I don't think they feel that excited about this. And I just want to make sure that what we're doing is worthwhile, that we're using your time well and staff's time well. And so anyways, I'm just planting that seed of thought. We can stew on it and talk about it again in April. But I just wanted to throw that out there.
It makes total sense to me. Can we go back to the logo in that do you have, I mean, I know you're overworked. I get, we all are in some fashion. Do we know what this is going to go on to for the names that will be at the next recognition meeting? Is it going to go on an object or a mug or?
We've been doing mugs, but we can do whatever you all want. That could also be part of this, is you can direct us on what you want the recognition item to be for the 2023 artists. I feel like we have the software where we can modify the typing easily. So like if in the future we just want to do artist of the year, or if we want to take out the month and the name, we can do that. We can kind of play with the writing. I think this is more about the design with the flowers and the building and the bridge.
I'm just thinking if it's printed on I like the mug. I like my mug. I know several other people here have the mug. It would be easier on staff to not have to deal with the month and the name, to just use the logo in a blank statement. So maybe for this year, that's something that staff can be thinking about. And then we look at for the next round, those changes. Yeah.
I feel like we can rally for a 2023 and like we can put the artist name and month in there. We want it to be special.
Of course.
I don't want it to just be this generic thing. So yeah, I think we could potentially use this logo on a mug for the 2023 artists, and then for 2024 we could start talking about updating the program and what that would look like.
Yeah, I would personally recommend that, just because also, I mean, I do agree with you in terms of changing the program. I know I got a bit of a preview on the Economic Development Commission with some of these questions, but I mean, I think, making some changes are great, but also I think for the 2023 folks, I mean, it feels right to me to make sure that they're still honored, like, by Artist of the Month, and they're not just like, hey, guess what? You were in this weird transition year that, like, before we actually changed the policy, but also we just didn't print it out on the mug. So I feel like we should just kind of honor our commitment, as small and weird as it sounds, to put their month on the mug, give them the mug, and then we can start over in 2024. Well, yeah, start over now.
I have a, can you hear me? Can you hear me okay? This is Marnie.
We can hear you, Marnie.
Okay, thanks. This is where I have a disconnect for myself. My disconnect is that I'm not as cool as all the folks on the commission. And some of these artists I don't know. And what I'm wondering is if we can do a retrospective of the year, and then when these artists have, put up a show or, whatever, however, because it's not just painting and photography, right? It could be a play, or it could be a spoken word, or I mean, I'm imagining it could be all kinds of things. But what if we went to these shows, and what if we then could see the work and take notes on them, and um, and then provide feedback so that at the end of the year or the beginning of the next year, we honor all of the artists throughout the year. So instead of maybe just picking one per month, instead we might pick, I don't know, 3 or 7, whatever we determine for that year, who just did exceptional work, and or moved us in ways that we didn't see that we'd be moved when we saw their work. Would that be something that we could do? I would love to go and see these folks, is basically, so I'm being a little bit selfish right now. So please forgive me. But would that be something that we could do as a commission, or, or as individuals, if they let us know when they're going to have something on display somewhere in the community? Thank you.
I mean, I can speak for myself. It doesn't take a lot of arm twisting to like go out and see art, particularly if there's time to plan for it. So I love the idea of honoring the artists, with the things that they're doing.
No, I mean, I think that would be great. Just as long as, I guess, kind of circling back to kind of it's not even the elephant in the room. We've talked about it plenty. Like, just as long as this is not yet another additional thing for staff to do.
No, this would be us
Yeah.
as commissioners. That's how I'm imagining it. So one more thing for us, Calder. I'm willing to go on a field trip and to see folks. So I guess that would be maybe an idea to stew on and talk about later, these different ways in which we can view all of these wonderful artists and make good recommendations that are meaningful and truly do honor their work. Yeah, thanks.
Well, Marnie, I for one know that myself and probably everyone else sitting up here, we do go. A lot of us go to a lot of these events. Maybe not like it's hard for me to make Arts Alive because of my job schedule, but I make a point of going to see venues during the off hours. Actually, I have a couple I'm going to right after we're done here. But I think the challenge that I hear from that would be, how do we coordinate all of our time? Because we are all so involved in different parts of the creative community, including yourself included. But I love the idea. Although my other thought on that is, could that be an issue with the Brown Act? There might be someone else in the room that can address that.
I think there'd be issues if you were all communicating. So like when I email the commission, I always BCC you. I think potentially if there's something coming up that you think would be really meaningful, you could email staff and we could pass that out to the commission. Hey, Commissioner Topping recommended that you all pay attention to this show, or just to make sure that things are on your radar that you might not know of otherwise, that other commissioners would know of. I think that would be easy for us to just forward the emails to the commission without you all talking to each other. I think this is something, let's keep talking about it and talk about it in April and come up with a better version of this that's worthwhile.
In the meantime, then, we still need to vote on that logo.
In the meantime,
Yeah.
and I think I logged this computer out of Zoom. I'm sorry, Derek. Here's some suggested motion language for you.
All right. Well, I move that the Art and Culture Commission approve the Artist of the Month and Year logo as shown in Attachment A.
Second. Oh.
Wait, I feel like I'm walking into a trap.
Is there public comment on the logo? Okay.
I move that the Art and Culture Commission approve the Artist of the Month and Year logo as shown in Attachment A.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passed.
So from here, we were planning on doing a recognition ceremony with our Economic Development Commission. So we'd be recognizing the businesses of the month and the artists of the month all together. Do you all like that idea?
How long is the program?
It'll be
I'm
short
sorry,
and
honest
sweet.
question.
It'll be short and sweet.
Okay.
Yeah.
But plan a couple hours.
I'd say yeah, I'd say an hour and a half tops.
Do we have a date yet?
No.
Okay.
So we would schedule a special meeting with you all. We'd send out a doodle. And then we would have our next regular meeting in April on April 16th. So we try to do it in between now and then. Or we can just do it at the April 16th meeting and we can do separate recognition ceremonies. We don't need to combine.
I mean, if combined is easier, I'd say do that. I'm just thinking more about 2 days notice can be tough for something like that.
I know. I appreciate
Get
you
that
guys.
doodle out this week.
Yeah, I appreciate how much quickly you guys turned around these special meetings.
Mm-hmm.
I like the idea of the combined one if we've got some notice.
So I said through the chair, realistically, I think getting all of the mugs ordered, we're probably looking at pretty close to the April meeting as it is. But if we can do a combined meeting before then, we will.
Okay. Anything else? Are we ready for adjournment? Okay, I'd like to adjourn the special meeting of the Art and Culture Commission meeting at 12:57. We'll have our next regular meeting, Art and Culture, on Tuesday, April 16th at 12:30. Thank you.